We have in the studio with us today Mr. Michael Foulkes, who is the Free National Movement candidate for the Golden Gates constituency. We've had him on the show before. He's here again, now in the very height of things. Both parties have launched their candidates, ratified their candidates. They are all flashing their colors. They are all flashing their crowds. They are all making noise. They are making points and counterpoints. And I think it's safe to say the heat is on. Now, we haven't gotten an election date yet, but we know the parliamentary commissioner is doing his work to try to rally people to register, and all the parties are compelling people to go and register, to go and regularize their situation if you moved, and so forth and so forth. So it's interesting to be able to talk to Mr. Foulkes now in the midst of this. Welcome, 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 Mr. Foulkes.
Good afternoon, Zhivargo, and good afternoon to your listeners. It's a pleasure again to be with you, as always, and to be on your show. Certainly one of the top shows in the country, and a show that it's well listened to. And I thank you very much for having me today.
Appreciate it, appreciate it. Well, you could thank your folks who sent you, because you must obviously have provided them with some good media presence the last time, because they send you back.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Did I say anything? Did I say anything in my introduction that wasn't true?
It didn't sound that way to me.
So things are heated up.
Certainly.
Is the Free National Movement ready for battle?
Oh, we surely are. We are definitely battle ready. Our candidates on the ground. They are working, going door to door, talking to the constituents, hearing their concerns, listening to what they have to say, and offering to some of the things that we plan to do. And they're doing the work, because the work is about going, knocking on doors and talking to the voters. You got to talk to the voters. And it's about being on the ground. And our people are on the ground.
Okay. Well, the Progressive Liberal Party in launching its candidates and its campaign last night, put out an economy fact check on you guys, and indicated that while you increased VAT from 7.5% to 12%, they reduced VAT from 12% to 10%. What do you say to that?
First of all, Zhivargo, let me just say, I don't know what that was last night. That was nothing. That was absolutely nothing.
What do you mean
the young people say
big crowd. They had their candidate speaking.
Yeah.
And what have you? You had the same sort of thing the other night. What do you mean was nothing? What do you mean by that?
The young people say that's air. And I'm reminded of the commercial in one of the United States presidential elections, and I think it was President Ronald Reagan, where the elderly lady was in one of the fast food chains, and she said, "Where's the beef?" Well, where's the beef? Listen, Zhivargo, from the beginning, from the outset.
I was reading the beef.
Yeah.
12% to 10%.
Yeah.
Minimum wage increased 24%. Civil service salaries raised, and labor agreements. 4 new airports and energy overhaul. Lowest unemployment since 2008. 3.4% GDP growth. That's beef.
So as I was saying a moment ago, they opened that launch last night, and every speaker, Zhivargo, practically spoke about COVID and the pandemic. And if they intend to run and have a narrative about the pandemic, people are not on their run about that. I don't know if they know, but people are not on their run about that. People are trying to make ends meet. They're trying to put food on the table. And every speaker ran with that narrative from 2021. If I didn't know any better, if I knew absolutely nothing, I just came here and I just watched that last night, I would have thought I was in 2021. Because every speaker talking about COVID and the pandemic. And right now, people want to know what this government is doing to reduce the cost of living and affordability crisis everyone's
Reducing
facing.
VAT by
And so I'm
12
coming to
from
that. So
twelve
I'm coming to that.
percent to 10%. That's what
Exactly. And
it's right here what they're saying.
and so you will recall, Zhivargo, I'm sure, when I was on your show the last time, I spoke about this and I said, for the life of me, I and the FNM, because all of our members in the House of Assembly had spoken about this from the leader straight on down to every member. Why is it that this government absolutely insisted on keeping VAT on bread basket items? As I said then, even the bishop of the Anglican Church, Leish Boyd, in the Synod in 2023, asked the government to remove the VAT of bread basket items because we know the most vulnerable amongst us use the bread basket items. And you know what? That is what's so cynical. They now wait to move the bread basket, the VAT on bread basket, not now, not this moment, but they doing it in advance on as of the 1st of April. And by most accounts, the word on the ground, quite frankly, is elections will be held in May. Now we know, to be straight and be factual, it is due in September or thereabouts. If you take into account all of the potential days, but let's say on the anniversary of the last one, which was 16th September, right, 2021. But the word on the street is it's going to be held in May. So they're now going to give people the relief just before they call a general election, when people have been struggling for 4.5 years, can't put food on the table. Now you come to me, and now you take the VAT of the bread basket items. And secondly, I want to say this too about that. Why is it that that's the last thing to have the VAT taken off of? The set of items that the poor people use most, the most vulnerable amongst us use. Because remember now, it was at 12 and they brought it down to 10, and then they brought it down to 5 on some items. And you know, I said this the last time, why didn't they, if they gave all these people a break who could afford these items, they gave them a break all the way down to 5%, why didn't they then just take it off the bread basket to 0? Take it off completely. Why leave it on? So the people who use the bread basket, they had to wait till everybody got the VAT taken off all the food before they could get a break. I do not get that. Why is it that this government, and has never been sensitive to the people and the most vulnerable amongst us? I mean, we also saw it with the teachers and the civil servants. They got theirs last. The others, who are at the top of the chain, so to speak, they got theirs first. They got more for a longer period of time, and they got more on a dollar basis, and they got theirs early. They got theirs on time. All the other teachers, all the police officers, all of these people, they had to wait. And what did they get? They didn't get what was promised them. I don't know why this government is not sensitive to the needs of people who are struggling. And that's what they've demonstrated repeatedly.
But they would argue that if you raise minimum wage, the Free National Movement introduced minimum wage under Hubert Alexander Ingram.
That's correct.
Obviously, because it felt like that was necessary. Well, they say they raised minimum wage by 24%, which is true.
Yeah.
Is that not addressing the needs of the poor?
Yes, that is addressing the needs of the poor. But the question is, are you doing all that you can? You see, this is not talk. People are out there, as we speak right here, people are moving about all out through this island, all through Grand Bahama, through all of the islands of this Commonwealth, and they are busy trying to make ends meet as we speak. This ain't talk. This is the real thing. This is not talk. And unfortunately, they have not been sensitive to this, because the first thing is to be able to eat. That's the first order of business, a roof over your head and being able to eat. And it's and same thing with the power and the BPL. It is crazy. We are paying a lot more for BPL now than we paid in 2021. You know, the question is always, the old question, are you better off now than you were, to use an American phrase, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Well, the question in our context is absolutely not. If you're using under 800 kilowatt hours per month, you are still paying 75% more per month. If you're using, than you paid back in 2021. If you are using over 800 kilowatt hours per month, you're paying 115% more than you were paying in 2021. So people aren't imagining that things more difficult. It is indeed more difficult. And I was on the ground. I'm on the ground most evenings now. And I'll tell you a quick little story I want to share with you and your listeners. I went to a home the other day, and when I went to the home, the person opened the door, and the person said to me, "I'm sorry, listen here, we're on your run and all this sort of thing." And I said, "No problem, I understand." And I said, "Well, do you mind giving me your name, the name of the family?" They did, and so we moved on to the next home. Well, Zhivargo, we wasn't at the next home for 30 seconds before the same person I spoke to in that home, a young man, he came to the home where I was, my team, and he said, Mr. Foulkes, sorry, but my father wants to know if you can come back and if you would talk to him, please. I said, sure, I would. I went back there in Zhivargo. We went inside. They sat us down. They invited us to sit down. And you know what the gentleman told me? He said, Mr. Foulkes, I've been PLP all my life. I am now 84, 85, he said. I voted PLP in every election. I voted every election, and I voted PLP. But he said, you know what? I'm not doing it this time. I'm voting for you, and I'm voting FNM. And you know why? Because things need to change. Things are just too expensive in this country. The healthcare is not working, and I'm very concerned about having to go to Princess Margaret Hospital, what's going to happen to me there. And he said he's concerned about issues surrounding immigration. These are the things he told me. And he said for this reason, he is not voting PLP, and he's done it all his life. And he said not only that, there are 8 voters in my house, and all of us are voting for you and the FNM. And that speaks to just how serious it is. This gentleman has determined that he's not going to support the party he supported through all the years, through all the issues their party has had. He is determined this time it is so bad that he's not going to vote for them.
But folks, I wanna make a point here. I am in possession of a power bill, of power bills actually, for January 2026, and then one in August 2021. And I had this for a little bit because I was curious listening to some of the things I heard the government say about power bills and rates versus what even the opposition had been saying about it. And I can tell you, based on the bills, the notion that I have heard from the government and some government members that the rates are down is not true when you look at rates between 201 and 800 and over 800. In fact, according to these two bills, the rates are the same, not lower and not higher. They are the same. Right? So there's been no gains to the public from rate reductions, and there's been no increases based on rate increase, based on the bills I have in my possession.
Yeah, I can't speak to the bills in your possession, but we have done this, and as I recall, I don't have bills in front of me, but as I recall, in 2021, I think the kilowatt hour was 10.58 cents per kilowatt hour, as far as I recall, under 800, and right now it's 17 point something.
No, so this is the base. Yeah, this is the base rate. The base rate, the base rate between 201 and 800, 11.95. So 11 cents, 12 cents basically, and that's the same as it is today.
Well, I can tell you at some point.
And then over 800, it was 0.1495, same as it is today. Where the big hit comes is in the fuel surcharge hit, which was significantly lower in 2021 than it is today.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, the point is, whatever narrative that may have been given in terms of reduction and in other instances in terms of increases, the bills don't support that on the base rate. On the surcharge, there is certainly a significant difference compared to between the two periods.
And that is why people really have good reason to feel as though it's very difficult to make ends meet because
Yeah.
things are truly more expensive now than it was in 2021. This isn't just talk. And some people
Yeah.
believe it's just talk, and some people dismiss it, and some people talk about it, but then, don't do anything till it's time for the general election. To come
And
to the
and, and
table
point of
now.
and point of in point of fact, what you have anyone can observe is that even with the so you have a VAT decrease to 10% generally, but then uh you have a VAT, and then you had a VAT increase
Mhm.
on bread basket food items and medicines and stuff like that. Then
Absolutely.
you had a decrease and so forth. But what has happened is the benefits of any decrease has been diminished by the fact that you had two things taking place at one time, which is you had inflation
Yes.
happening,
Hmm.
and so that was eating in um, to people's circumstances.
Right.
And then, of course, where you had the increase on things that there was really a zero rating on,
Right.
then people had to absorb that and have to absorb it until April 1st.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is this narrative about we're doing you such a great favor, right? From the 12 to 10 to 5 to 0. Let's not forget, they're the ones who put the VAT on the breadbasket items in the first instance. When VAT came in under the PLP government in the first instance, we had no VAT. VAT was at zero. It didn't exist. Let's not forget. There was no VAT.
Yeah.
There was
Mm-hmm.
no VAT. It was at zero. So under the F&M, it was at zero. The PLP brought it in at 7.5%. It was at zero. And when they brought it in, they had VAT on bread basket items, and they had it for the duration of that period from 2012 to 2017. When we came in 2017, we immediately removed the VAT from the bread basket items and maintained that at zero throughout. For the life of me, they come back.
You increase VAT
Yes,
to
we did.
12%, and then you took it off of the bread basket food items though.
Correct. That's correct. That is correct.
That's the full story,
That
right?
absolutely, and that is correct.
Okay.
Right,
All right.
that's correct. And then, but the thing though is, they come back now, and yes, they brought the VAT back on the bread basket items at the full rate at the time. And so again, that's why we have such a great problem with why is it that they don't identify and not sensitive to the struggles of families and the struggle of persons who are most vulnerable in our community. To talk about scripture for a moment, right? Jesus said about talking about the oil and the use of the oil. Jesus said, the poor will always be with you. But certainly Jesus didn't say that for that to be an excuse not to do all you can for the poor. Certainly it wasn't. And in fact,
But what?
in fact, we know from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 25, verses 35 to 40, he said that you should do all you can to help your brothers. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was thirsty,
Right.
when I was thirsty, you gave me food to drink. And so that is that principle. We don't see that here playing out here with this government being sensitive to those most in need. And
If I were the government, pushing back on that
yes,
though, you have all the social services programs you had in place when Dr. Minnis was in office, when they were saying too that you weren't doing enough for the poor. Same program still in place. But they would also argue, look at what we're doing for school children. A million lunches or breakfasts are served and so forth. Isn't that helping the poor?
the thing is, Zhivargo, is that I'm glad you mentioned social services because even the social services minister said that they need to do more for people in social services. Even he said that, and he went further, Zhivargo. He actually said that things are so bad. Let's not forget, he said this on his feet in the House of Assembly, and this is a serious comment. Things are so bad that people are resorting to prostitution like they've never seen to make ends meet. This whole part has been.
Okay, and so
And so
let's concede then that things are bad. Maybe they're not doing enough. What is it that the FNM proposes to do if it comes to office?
well, we'll be happy to hear, quite frankly, that they have now determined to take the VAT off of bread basket items in the future, starting April 1, even though it's designed to buy votes, in our view. And that's the only reason they're doing it, because they should have done it before now. But we're happy that they're doing it now. We've been pressing them some time. But we're also taking the VAT off of medicines. We're taking the VAT off all medicines for everybody. It doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter your condition. No one will pay VAT on medicines. We're also taking VAT off baby food, Pampers, wipes. We're going to step in and try to help those who need the help most, and particularly where they're meeting challenges where just their existence, right? In terms of medicines, the medicines are very expensive, and a lot of people can't afford them. And in fact, talking about medicines, there are no medicines in the hospital. The hospital has a major shortage of medicines as it is. And so this whole idea of getting medicines, you're going to have to buy more medicines privately too, because they don't have any medicines. Not that they don't have any, but they have a severe shortage of medicines, as they have many other problems in the hospital. They have the shortage of medicine, shortage of doctors, shortage of nurses.
All right,
But they
folks,
don't have a
folks,
shortage.
you gotta listen. You gotta listen to me now. You gotta listen to me. We gotta have a good dialogue.
Okay.
You gotta have a good dialogue. I want to give you the opportunity to share, but we're on a point.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure we conclude the point.
Sure.
So you're saying that the F&M's effort to help the poor
Right.
amounts to reducing VAT on the items you said. There's nothing else that you want to talk, so we could go on to something else.
No, the FNM is also considering some other items that will require us to have conversations with others, with other groups, which is something that is wise and prudent. And so, yes, we're looking at some other items potentially that we'll say more about at the appropriate time. But for example, we are on the same note here, we are very soon about to release our manifesto. And so we'll be able to say a lot more about those things. But I can tell you one of the other things, though, is housing, right? Housing is a major issue, the cost of housing. So we intend to apply of housing. And in doing so, we'll reduce the cost of housing. One of the key issues with housing is there's plenty demand and there's not a lot of supply. And so the leader has spoken about this, and he said we intend to develop at least 1,000 units per year across our 5 years, and maybe as much as 2,000. He's spoken this issue in a very strong way and a very convicted way. Michael Pentard has spoken this issue about us creating more housing units, and that is a huge problem in the area on Carmichael Road where Golden Gates is and many other constituencies. You have units out there now going for $1,200, $1,100 for one bedroom, one bath, and I hear this all the time too. People having difficulties affording housing, and what is happening as a result, you have multiple generations in a home, and there's a lot of that happening now because a lot of young people cannot afford housing. They can't afford a rent, and a lot of them certainly cannot afford a mortgage. It's very difficult to qualify for a mortgage, and so it's critical that we have a supply and a regular supply of units, rental units, and those types of units that are affordable for people, because it's just tough on this road. It's tough on this road, and so that's something directly we're going to do to bring down, hopefully, the cost of housing.
We have a caller on the line. Go ahead, caller. We're listening to you.
Good day. How you guys doing?
Good, man. What's up?
Okay, great. I just want to address one or two things that I heard Mr. Foulkes speaking about. One of the things that first thing I heard him talking about was the launch, the PLP's launch last evening, and that it was, I don't know if you say it was a joke or something or whatever, but I don't know what he was watching last night and what compared to what the rest of the country was watching, and just based on, and if I'm not mistaken, a few days earlier, they also had a launch, and if I can understand why he's saying that, and I can understand why most of his supporters and the party supporters are not even commenting on what happened last night in relation to not only the numbers, but also the fact that this was just a launch. And if I was looking at what they did a couple of nights ago and what happened last night, it's a totally different issue altogether. That's point number one. Point number two, I heard Dr. Sands mentioning something about conditions at the hospital, the nurses, the medicines, and so forth and so forth and so forth. Why that this ain't being done? Why that ain't being done? And I'm almost convinced that to be a politician, you almost got to have what we call selective memory. That's a requirement because I wonder if he realized that people still need to forget a lot of the things that, including the nurses, including the doctors, including the hospital that he was in charge of, Minister of Health, and all these other things, and that wasn't done. And the medical bills wasn't being paid, the merchants, the vendors weren't being paid, all these other things and whatnot, and how we have very selective memory. That's point number 2. Point number 3, the fact you kept asking, you kept asking him, and I'm going to finish up right now.
Hold on. Just wrap it up for me, please. That's all I was going to ask you to do.
Okay, yeah. And you consistently kept asking him, what about the VAT that was added? You guys did this, you guys did that. And he danced around and danced around and danced around, and I just noticed that he never really answered the initial question that you asked. That's what that's what this thing is all about. He never asked the initial question that you asked about that.
Okay, well, thank you for calling. We appreciate you calling. Thanks a lot, brother. But folks, you want to
Certainly. Oh, absolutely. First of all, on the last point, I did answer you. quite clearly. I said that they make the case that they brought it down from 12 to 10 to 5 to 0. And I spoke to that because the F&M had no VAT on breadbasket items. And I spoke to the fact that they put it on. Initially, we took it off. And when they came back, they brought it back on again. And everything is moving now towards the general election. And so now they are attempting to appear to be sensitive to people, but nobody's buying it. They're selling it, no one's buying it. Secondly, the caller might not be aware, but in the Guardian of the 10th of February, 2026, there was a, by the way, I would just say this is a paper, someone might be familiar with the heading that says, when the PM says, you can trust me. That's the Guardian I'm talking about. And there's a story in there, and this is a quote. And I want to read this quote if you bear with me. This is a quote from the Consultant Physician Staff Association, the CPSA president, Dr. Sherelle Lockhart. And she's also raised alarm over the state of the, no, this is not a quote, this is a statement of the Princess Margaret Hospital, saying it is the worst ever it is the worst she has ever witnessed in her 22-year tenure. That is what Dr. Sands was talking about. That's not Dr. Sands. That is the president of the Physicians Association, who's been there for 20-something years. Her view, and she's prepared to state it publicly, it is the worst she's seen over those years. And that is what Dr. Sands was talking about. And did I miss something? It was a third item? Zhivargo, was there something else?
I don't recall. I don't recall. Yeah. Someone is asking whether or not y'all are prepared to remove VAT on all food items, prepared and unprepared.
We had said they're already prepared and unprepared. That's a very good question, actually. That's something that we'll have to consider. As I said a moment ago, we are looking at removing VAT of some other items as well. And I think when you and I last spoke, and I was on your show, Zhivargo, I think you said perhaps it may be a good idea to also consider funeral expenses as well. And I agreed with you then. I think that's a good idea for us to consider that. And so, yes, we are looking at some other items as well. It'll be premature for me to speak to them at this time because we are looking to finalize those as part of our manifesto.
Okay. This says, kindly ask Mr. Foulkes, where would the funds come from to replace the lost revenue when the VAT is taken off of meds?
I'm so happy you said that. That's a very good question. And you know, the Minister of Economic Affairs indicated, as I recall, that the cost of these recent removals of VAT as of April 1, because it hasn't happened yet. Let me make that clear. It hasn't happened yet. People are still paying the VAT at this time. That was going to cost $15 million. And it begs the question again, that's $15 million. but they're paying $70 million in consultancies every year. 70 million in consultancies. It seems to me making food more readily available, more affordable to people is really something that ought to be looked at and should have been looked at, as opposed to spending $70 million in consultancies. And it's 15 million, as we know, because now we've been told that. Even you subtract 15 from the 70, my calculation say you still have a whole 55 million.
Oh, so you
55 million for consultants.
You could get the funeral bills.
Hello, and not only that, Zhivargo, let's look at the travel. The travel up to the fourth year was just about 60 million. I think it was 58.5 million. And so we're talking another 15 million a year just on travel. And we, to my knowledge, the government has never spent these massive amounts on travel and on consultancies. And the thing about it is,
58. You sure it's 58 million?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Throughout over the course. In fact, there was one trip, as I recall, there was a report on this that the Prime Minister took one trip alone was over $1 million. It's quite incredible. The amount of money they've spent on travel is quite incredible. And let's not forget, and this is where you really get the rub, right? They could take 100 persons all the way to Dubai. Let's not forget that, in the beginning of their term, they took 100 people all the way to Dubai. And they were in wonderful, top-notch hotels. Spend our hard-earned money when people couldn't put food on the table. And we all saw the pictures in them in first class with their champagne and all this while the people can't eat here on the ground here in Nassau. But they are on the planes in first class with the champagne glass. And people are struggling.
We have about 3 minutes left in this interview. And,
yes, sir.
And we have some texts. I can't read them. I won't get to them. But just so you know, you can make your points in relation to seeing.
Sure.
Yeah, so you can if you wanted to say something else.
No. I was saying this idea of you see, Zhivargo, you have to be concerned about people, and this is the point. You have to be concerned. You have to care, and that care should come from concern, and then you have to act. But if you don't care, you don't have the concern, you're not ever going to act. You have to have the care and concern for people. And if that ain't there, because on the other hand, though, not only travel, there's been $500 million giveaway. And I say giveaway, I call it a giveaway because these are contracts from this government, our money. Everyone listen to me, it's your money. And they have given contracts to people where there was no bid, no bidding, absolutely none. Well, that's a giveaway. That's what that is. For all intents and purposes, that's a giveaway. They could do that, though. But they can't find the $15 million for the last 4.5 years. Did you give people this break they now going to give them? Starting just before the general election? They could find money for that now, though. But they couldn't find money, but they could give away $500 million, $500 million. That's a B. It's a giveaway if you're not doing a proper bidding process. And we put the law in place, and they ignored it. And they said they were ignoring it because they wanted to amend it. Well, guess what? They did amend it eventually after they ignored it for a while. And guess what? They didn't follow their own amendment. And so where's the concern for the people? I don't see it. I do not see it. $500 million with no bid contracts. That is astounding. That is really something else. And we know nothing about them. We had the contract the other day for $183 million. That was going for these roads in West Grand Bahama. It was going through the entire process. That was when they reported. That actually came out. It was Gazette and everything. And then when we made a fuss about it, $183 million for roads in West Grand Bahama, then all of a sudden, that was a mistake. That should not have been done. Really? Or is it being pulled back now because it's been identified, it's been recognized, and the opposition, the leader, Michael Pintar, has been talking about it, and everybody else. So now that was pulled back. That's not even in the $500 million, The $500 million, that's not in it. That was pulled back. What about the?
We had the lunch the 1 o'clock hour for news and at the end of the interview. But I'm sure we can hear from you again and others.
Sure.
Appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Michael
much,
Foulkes, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Free National Movement candidate for the Golden Gates constituency.
Thank you very much. And good day to everybody.